involved. And I think that part of how masculinity is played out in our society is to encourage that kind of sense of fierce competition and like unflinching, unwavering confidence that comes across. And so to be able to turn that off at some point to be with your partner, I would imagine that's got to be like a hard corner to turn. I think in all optimal experiences, what you want is to be able to find relationship and connection with someone who helps you do that without judgment, that helps you do that in a way that makes sense for who you are, that is also willing to stand by you and be in relationship to you even when you're struggling in those moments, and remain committed to you in that. But there has to be some willingness and give on your take to be able to meet the other person where they are. What's your male perspective on that question?
So I think that's an interesting question. And I'm going to speak from a heteronormative perspective about this and deal with the roles of gender as it is dealt with in our society. Oftentimes, well, there's two parts of that. The first part is black men are socialized by other black men. The second part is black men are further socialized by black women. So as a young black man, you have to be bigger, faster, better, stronger, because you're taught from a very young age that there are those in this world who believe you to be less than and will treat you as such. So you always have to walk the street with a certain bravado to claim your manhood, your masculinity, and to demand respect. So that's the first part of it. The second,
just as a one part, like you saying, this heteronormative, but I don't know that I don't know for black people that's heteronormative. I just think that's black men regardless of your sexuality.
Oh yeah, well I'm speaking in the context of a heteronormative relationship, and that's just the first prong, the first leg of it. That applies to black men across the board, I believe. Absolutely. Because gay or not, I was socialized in the same exact way. That's just how we're raised as black men. But right. I'm speaking in terms of, and I'm taking a longer route to this young lady's question.
It's only a 45-minute show, so I'm going to need you to...
So shut up and let me finish. So the second part of that is... You have this black man who's been socialized in this way to be harder, faster, stronger, whatever. And they come into black women who have also been socialized to be harder, faster, stronger, not so much in that way as black men, but enough to help them understand that, there are things out there that are coming for you as well. And so these two people meet. They have that machismo, they have that anger, they have that drive, that determination that we've got to be bigger, better. A lot of times in that space, there isn't an opportunity for that man to fall down on his knees and put his head in that woman's lap and cry, because that is seen sometimes by certain black women, and notice the words I'm using, sometimes by certain black women, as a lack of masculinity, and goes against how she was raised that black men should be. The emotionless black man, the disciplinarian, the person who brings home the money. This is who that man should be, the hard worker, the tired, if you tired, you sleep, if you up, you active. Like that whole thing is what I saw growing up, and what a lot of young brothers see growing up still to this day when it comes down to what a black man is supposed to be. Deviance from that very rigid gender role is less than in terms of a black man. So I think to answer this person's question, when she's talking about dealing with black men who feel the need to be either or, if this is a man that you love, my sister, help him. Help him to understand that being vulnerable with you does not take away from his masculinity. It actually adds to it, because he's then able to access his complete self.
So now we have to talk about, I think, the real challenge in any intimate relationship, and that's the risk of intimacy. That you only, as much as you risk being hurt, is as much as you risk getting back all of the love and support and connection that you are seeking. And
You're
so,
about to turn this into another show. Don't let me start testifying up in here. Don't let me do it.
but it's true.
It is.
It's true.
It's that risky disclosure. That risky disclosure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of relationships get put, are dead in the water to begin with. Right. So we have another tweet that came through from Lil J3. And he says, how do you decide when to compromise and when to walk away? And I think the answer is that you have to determine how much of a risk you're willing to take to put your vulnerabilities out there. And that's always, to me, the leaping point off in any relationship. You either decide that you're going to be in it or you're not. And I think what happens in a lot of attempts at relationships, that people are playing at it. That they're not really, really invested in getting to know someone and being vulnerable and willing to jump off the cliff, so to speak, and take that risk, because they're trying to avoid the potential fallout of hurt, of being invalidated, of being misunderstood, of being rejected, of being left behind. And I think that gets in a lot of people's way before there's the opportunity to really see if this person can meet you where you are. That whole scenario that you talked about in terms of being in a safe space to allow the man to demonstrate another side of his masculinity, a more tender side of himself, it still requires a risk on the man's part to reveal himself in that way. So
absolutely.
It goes both ways, right?
And if you have a relationship with a person who may be combative, or maybe you don't feel safe enough to be vulnerable with, then you're not going to ever get to that place. But to that gentleman's point, there's two things. I have two guides that I use when I know when to walk away, or as a guide to walk away. The first was or is the Kelly Clarkson song,
I'm real nervous.
Just Walk Away. No, I'm playing. But that is my jam. No. Real talk. If you don't feel... No. I'll put it like this. If you feel in your house the same way you feel outside your house, then you ain't in the right house. Okay? If you feel you got to be on your best behavior, you got to always be on your P's and Q's, you got to be looking over your shoulder like birds are coming to attack you because you afraid somebody going to get you, or something's happening, or you watching every word that come out of your lover's mouth because, oh, wait, no, wait, or you feel as though a simple question like, did you take out the trash? If that turns into an argument, you ain't in the right house. Trash ain't nothing to argue over. That's something to do. Take it out. Keep it moving. And I think that oftentimes, I just want to say this one part, and then I want you to throw in your psychoanalysis of it. I think oftentimes we turn this minutia into arguments because we don't want to have the real conversation, that we're not happy and we don't feel vulnerable and we don't feel safe in that space. So we'll argue about trash and the music being too loud, or you didn't sweep the floor, or why'd you leave the toilet seat down, and all of this stuff, when that's not the real issue.
Yeah. So one thing I think, relationships evolve over time, right? And so what standards you set for compromising versus committing at the early stages, compromising, committing, or walking away at the early stages of a relationship is very different than if you're in a long-term committed relationship of 10 years or 30 years, right? Because at some point, at least for some of the couples that are in long-term relationships, sometimes the argument really is just about the trash. Like, dude, for the past 7 years, I've been telling you, you got to always check the upstairs bathroom, but you just want to take out the kitchen trash. Like, at some point, there are some annoyances that come along with being in close proximity with just another full-grown adult. But I don't think that that's what you're talking about.
No,
right?
I'm not talking about that, because to that point, I'm in a situation now where the person I'm with, takes and leaves his coffee cup on the counter instead of just dumping it out and putting it in the sink. And it just sends my soul to a whole other level. But what do I do now? I laugh and I rinse it out and put it there. Because after 8 years, if you ain't put that coffee cup in the sink, you ain't gonna put that coffee cup in the sink. So I could break up this relationship because the coffee cup ain't in the sink, or I can put it in there myself and keep it moving. So that's what I'm saying. If I chose to argue about it, it would be something else. It would be because I'm out there dipping on the left and I'm found something new, or I just don't want to be in this anymore. And I'm not really man enough to come and say, this isn't working for me. That's how I feel.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I ain't 100% with you on that one. I know that that's how you feel.
You don't need to be on that one. That's what I know to be true. What do you know to be true? And you got about 4 minutes left to tell us what you know to be true.
Oh my gosh, really? Okay, what I know to be true is that these shows go by way, way too fast.
Fast.
So what I know to be true is that I think we live in a time in which intimacy, broadly defined, is a threatening concept. I think it's a foreign concept. We have so many more ways of being able to be in communication and connection with each other via right now somebody can email me, call me, text me, Snapchat me, tweet me, send me an instant message on Facebook, post of my wall. That's like 20 different ways you can get in touch with me. At the same time, I don't know that we are really evolving in our capacity to be intimate and to have empathy and to be in relationship with other people. I do worry about that. I think fundamentally, if we cannot figure that part out and be willing to take risks around our vulnerability, you can have all the hashtag relationship goals you want, but you need to know that if you aren't willing to put yourself and your vulnerabilities out there, you're never going to meet those hashtag relationship goals. That the relationship part means it goes both ways. It has to be willingness to give and risk and willingness to receive. And sometimes that could be risky for folks too, right? Like you could have experiences where you have been not treated well growing up, or never had positive reflections of who you are as a loving person with something to offer ever shown back to you. And so you may not believe you deserve the love that's coming at you. But what I know to be true is if you don't have those internal conversations with yourself about really the parts of being in a relationship that make you feel threatened, that make you feel uncomfortable, that make you feel vulnerable, then you can't begin to have an honest, healthy, loving relationship with somebody else, because you have to be able to have that conversation. You have to be able to move through that, and you have to be able to build a bridge between where you are and to where you want to be. But it starts with having those real intimate, real, honest, hard, sometimes, oftentimes uncomfortable conversations with yourself.
As RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in here?
Man, sister.
So we got about a minute and 30 seconds left. This has been an amazing summer, Dr. Nikki. I've enjoyed sitting in this second chair with you and look forward to spending more time with you in 2 shows we have coming up in the fall. Why don't you tell people about it in the time we have left?
Oh my goodness. So we will be back in the fall. We're going to be back in September. And of course, you can look for us on social media. Look for me at Dr. Nikki Knows on Twitter. Look for Tomajan ENT and All About Tomas on Twitter as well. And then we also are both on Facebook. So we will let you know well in advance for you to mark your calendars for when we'll be back in September. We're going to be doing something a little bit different in September. We're going to have our kind of regular rated PG daytime Doopy Deeps, but twice a month we're going to be doing Doopy Deeps After Dark. I'm so excited about this. So as I mentioned before in one of the earlier shows, one of my particular interests is around Black sexuality and Black love and Black relationships. And that's just not a conversation that I really feel we can have in the way that we need to get doopy deep about in the daytime hours. So we're going to have some after dark shows We're going to have a Skype line for you to be able to call in and leave your questions, call in and talk to us. We want to get